Good morning, children. Welcome back to your English classes. So, children, as we have completed chapter Unit 3 Prose, now we start with Unit 3 Poem, and the name of the poem is The Shed. And who is the poet of this poem? Frank Flynn. So, Frank Flynn is the poet. So, before I start with the poem, I'll give you a brief introduction about this poem. It is a narrative poem in which a child is the speaker. So, who is the speaker in this poem? It is a child. He is speaking about a shed. So, in this poem you find he is talking only about one particular shed. Now, what is shed, children? The shed is at the bottom of the garden, which is rarely opened. So, there is a shed behind the garden, bottom of the garden, behind the garden, and it is very rarely it's been used. It is used to store things. So, it's like a go down type. So, rarely people go there. A spider's web is seen hanging across the door to indicate this truth. So, as you know, like once you don't open a room or you don't use a room for quite a days, for 1 month and all, what would you see? You'd find spider's web hanging across the doors, the windows and the corners of the wall. So, this is what happens. So, to indicate this truth, you find spider's web. And the shed has a dusty window with 3 panes of glass. जो glass कांच में खिड़कियों में जो glasses होते हैं उसको कहते हैं window panes. Whenever he passes through that way, he feels that somebody is staring at him. So this child, whenever he passes from that shed, he feels that someone is watching. So who is that? He feels that someone is staring at him. But the poet's brother, so the poet has also a brother, warns him not to enter the shed, else the ghost will kill him. So the brother makes him more scared, by telling that there is a ghost in that shed. So if you go there, what will happen? The ghost will kill. The poet knows his brother's lies. He knows that his brother, first he thought that what his brother was telling is true. But later on he comes to know that his brother is telling a lie and there is no ghost. But the poet is determined to enter the shed one day. But he is so inquisitive that he wants to see what is there, and he makes up his mind that one day he will definitely enter the shed. So children, have you all understood this poem? Let's start with the poem. Who is the poet of this poem? Yes, Frank Flynn. So before I start, I'll just show you the picture of sheds. Just have a look, children, over here. See, what is shed? A shed is temporary structure built to shelter something. You have your animal shed, जहाँ पर हम animals को रखते हैं. This is tool shed where you keep your tools. This is wood shed जहाँ पर लकड़ियाँ रखते हैं. So these are the different sheds. Move on to introduction. The poem The Shed is about the fear and the curiosity of a child about the shed. So in this poem you would find the curiosity of a child. How he is curious to know what is there in the shed, and he feels that somebody is staring at him. The story, that is the narrative poem, deals with the psychology of a child to think over the received information. So he got the information from his brother that there is a ghost staying in the shed. So he thinks about it and then he own resolve to enter into the shed. Then he is determined to go and see what is there in the shed. It also shows playful rivalry between siblings. So children, even what happens when you and your brother You fight, you have a fight among yourself, and then your brother tries to take advantage of it. Makes you scared. Tries to tell you that so and so is there in order to take rivalry. Now, imagery. Now, what do you mean by imagery? An image is a mental picture formed by the use of words. Now, see, do you know what a shed is, children? I already shown the picture of shed. Now, it is a small room away from the main house. So, shed is not in the same. It is a little distance away from the main house for storing or keeping things, animals, tools, vehicles, etc. Now, let's begin with the poem. First stanza. I'll read the first stanza, children. All of you look into your textbook. Open page number 48. There is a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty and creak in the wind. So, in the first stanza, when I am in bed, I lie and I listen. I'll open that door one day. So, children, in the first stanza, the child can hear the creaking of rusty hinges. Now, what do you mean by hinges? See here. We have the joints on the doors and windows. This all become rusted. Can you see this image? These are the joints of doors. So, this rusty hinges and the spider's web. Can you find the spider's web? It creates a look of that someone is nobody staying. And if so terrified, these things appeal to the sense of sight. This is a visual imagery. So, even see this shed. It looks like it's abandoned. Nobody is using these things. So, there is a shed at the bottom of our garden. So, the child is explaining this. We have a shed, and where it is at the bottom of our garden, and we have spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty and creak. Creak means sound. So, when the wind blows, the sounds of the doors and windows have a creak sound. When I am in bed, I lie and listen. So, when it's on the bed, he listens to the sounds coming from that shed. And he makes up his mind that one day I'll open that door and try to find out what is there inside. Now, second stanza on next page. There's a dusty old window at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. I often think there's someone staring at me. Each time that I pass, I'll peep through that window one day. So, in the second stanza and third stanza, you find the spooky atmosphere. See, all it feels like abandoned. Darauna lagta hai. See the images. So, it feels that someone is staring. See the cracked windows. Rotten floorboards. See, these are rotten floorboards. Floorboards matlab, what do you mean by floorboards? We have wooden floors. Those are rotten. And ghost action of the chopping of the head. So, there's a dusty old window around at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. Crack means टूटा हुआ. जो खिड़की की कांच है, the glass which we have, सब टूटे हुए. And from there, the child thinks that from that window, someone is staring from there. Each time that I pass, I'll peep through that window one day. And one day, he'll go and peep from that window to see who is there inside. My brother says there's a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards, and if I even dare to step foot inside, he'll jump out and chop off my head. But I'll take a peek one day. Here in the third stanza, the child's brother tries to warn him not to go inside the shed, because अब उसको डरा रहा है उसका भाई. क्या कह रहा है कि if you go inside, the ghost will chop your head and kill you. So, is trying to make the child scared, frightened. There's a ghost in the shed living, and it's where this ghost is hiding under the rotten floorboards. I know that, now the last stanza children, I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. So now he knows, now we come to know that there is no such ghost living in the shed. It's only the brother trying to tell lies. Why? Because he wants to use the shed to keep his things secret, to hide his things secretively for his den. There isn't anyone staring or making strange noises. So now he comes to know that there is no one, nobody is looking at him, and no strange noises are coming from the shed. And the spider has been gone from his web since I don't know when. I'll go into that shed one day soon, but not just yet. So even the child is waiting for that day to go inside the shed. So in the concluding part of the poem, the child overcomes his fear and he convinces himself that there are no ghosts. Ghosts are not there, and no one stares at him or her, and the spider has gone back to its web. His brother wants to keep that place for himself when at play. Why? Because he wants to hide his things. It is playful rivalry between siblings. Then he seems determined to go into that shed, but not now, one day soon, but not just yet. So have you all understood the poem, children? So now let's start with. So children, let's read the question answers working with the poem. Answer the following questions. Who is the speaker in the poem? The speaker of the poem is the poet. Is she or he afraid or curious or both? Is the poet afraid or curious, or you find both? He is both afraid as well as curious. He is curious to enter the shed, and at the same time he feels that someone is staring at him. So he is afraid कि कोई उसे देख रहा है, but he is also curious. Why? He wants to find out अंदर क्या है. Now what is he planning to do, she or he? He is planning to open the door and enter the shed someday soon. Next one. But not just yet. Suggest doubt, fear, hesitation, laziness, or something else. Choose the word which seems right to you. Tell others why you choose it. So the answer, I think, but not just yet, suggests hesitation. It shows that the speaker wants to take some more time to be sure of his thoughts about the shed. He currently fears that someone stares at him, and at the same time also thinks that his brother saying that there is a ghost is just a lie. So he is hesitating to take any further step for now. So he knows his brother is just telling a lie, but still he hesitates. So because of that, he is not able to take a firm decision. So it's written, but not just yet. Understood, children? Moving on to the next one, question 2. Is there a room in your house or a house in your neighbor or locality where you would rather not go alone and never at night? If there is such a place and a story to go with it, let others hear all about it. Yes, so this is according to my opinion. This is my view. So if you have your story, then you can write that. This is my story. Yes, there is a room in my house where I do not go alone and never at night. That room is a storeroom in the backyard. We keep the things that are not in use currently. We open that room very rarely, and I feel scared to go alone there. Once I had gone there alone and there was a power cut. I screamed and started shivering with fear. I also heard some noise which made me even more frightened. Due to my screams, my family members came running towards the storeroom and calmed me down. After some time, power came back. Then we saw a rat roaming around, and I understood from where the noise was coming from. But I still feel very scared to go there alone, especially at night. So if you have a different story to narrate, you are free to write it. And please don't learn this for UT or semester. You will have to learn only 5 question answers. Understood, children? So children, your homework for today is, what you have to do? You will write the poem in your notebook and question answers in notebook. So this is the homework for today. We'll write the poem and the question answers. So till then, all of you bye. Take care.